Every time I crank my RDX, it just doesn't hold charge anymore. It just doesn't want to crank all the way. Now, I'm pretty sure I have a leak somewhere, and not just any leak, but an electrical leak. There has to be a parasitic draw that I gotta catch. And if it's not that, then maybe it's just my battery that's going out. One of the most efficient ways to check for a parasitic draw is using a thermal imaging gun. So I'm gonna start off with checking the fuse box first and the rest of the components, and then we'll go inside. So my fuse box on my RDX is located up here. My car has been cool for a couple hours now, so nothing under the hood should be too hot. So far everything's looking like it's about 77 to 78, 76, so it's fluctuating. But nothing is showing signs of a hot spot, which is great. They also did install an aftermarket amp setup. So let's see, this is not supposed to be drawing power since my car is off. So let's check that. It's fine. All right, we covered two major parts. Now I'm gonna go over the rest of the components and harness inside the engine bay. Even though I checked the fuses and relays that leads to some of these parts, it's always good to check the rest of the wires in case there's a pinch section or high resistance due to corrosion. It can create a lot of heat without blowing the fuse. Yeah, everything is looking good in here. See, and for some time now, guys, while I'm driving, on occasion, not all the time, I've noticed the locks just going on and off while I'm driving. And see, that's not normal. And when that started happening, like a short after that started happening, that's when I started noticing that my battery started discharging on its own. Maybe it was already a weak battery and I just didn't really notice it because, you know, so it's an older car. It's a 2007. So sometimes, you know, it takes a little while to crank. And maybe that was the sign at first. But ever since then, and ever since I noticed that, I was convinced, like, oh, I must have an electrical issue. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna check the secondary fuse box that's underneath the footwell on the driver's side. And we're gonna see if anything is red when it should be blue. Okay, now down here, we have our little fuse box. Now let's check that. I know, all those bright red orange colors look pretty deceiving, but the only thing I'm paying attention to is just the temperature reading. Plus, in the footwell area, it's usually where all the heat builds up, as well as the cabin area too. Yeah, no, everything looks at about the same temperature. So let's check my doors. You never know if it's a wiring issue. Right now, let's check the amplifier. Yeah, it's good, just how it should be. We checked all of that, front and rear seats. Let's check the back. Let's see. So far, everything is looking pretty optimal because anything over 110 degrees Fahrenheit, that would be the red flag. So now I'm gonna use my scanner so it can tell me the condition of my battery. I'm gonna run a test on the alternator too. All right, and you guys are about to see what I mean by it's struggling to start. Now, I know the terminals look pretty worn, and we can see all that blue stuff that's coming out of the wiring, all that oxidation that formed. I believe that's something else too. See, there's not so much on the positive side, just on the negative side, on the ground. Like if it's shortening our ground and not causing it to start. Don't get me wrong, this battery was made to be sold in 2023. It's 2026 now. So these typically only last probably like about 2 to 3 years. It depends. I'm not too sure about these Napa batteries. But also the terminals might have something to do with it. Maybe a standard cleaning, or maybe they just need to be replaced. Okay, now let's do a battery test first. Vehicle is not moving. The transmission must be in park or neutral position. It's in park. Ensure the parking brake is on. And there we go. Now it says turn the engine off and then turn the headlights on. Continue. Now turn off the headlights and continue. Now start the engine. Oh yeah. Look at that. Battery status, fail. Replace the battery. It's faulty. It's old. It's corroded. It's worn. It's outdated. We gotta get something new. Good. It passed. So I was doing a price comparison online to see if it was gonna be a little bit cheaper than just buying a battery at an auto parts store. And there's not much of a discount. So it's best to just take the core to the auto parts store, see the selection that they have. They might have a deal. Who knows? That's what I'm hoping for. And if so, and even if that's not the case, it's okay. I'm still gonna need a battery. I still gotta drive. I gotta daily this thing, you know? I'm eager to get back on the road. I'm also probably gonna need a new turbo. Oh, am I foreshadowing the future repair? I'm gonna cut that out. I forget sometimes, guys. I'm like, lefty loosey, righty tighty. All right. Okay. Whoa, well, that's gone. All right, let's go. Group 35, 550 cold cranking amps is what I needed. There was a $60 difference between getting this one and the Pro Power Ultra. For the cranking amps and warranty, I decided this one will do just fine. And since I brought the core, they refunded $22 after the purchase, bringing it down to $159.84. The terminal kit I ordered online came out to $14.11 and a set of 4-gauge lugs for $7.74, bringing it to a grand total of $181.69. Rise and shine. It got way too late last night to try to switch out terminals in the dark, so it's better to do that kind of work in the daytime. Guys, the kit I got comes with absolutely everything that I'm gonna need to switch out the terminals. So not the tools though, I have the tools. And that's the only reason why I chose this particular set is because I have the tools and I'm able to cut into the wiring, crimp on the new terminal, and then even cut into the amp wiring, put a new lug on there, and then put it all together. And this is what the kit comes with. We got some lugs, some heat shrink, some terminal covers so you can know which one is positive and negative. And then we got the terminals here, and then you got some covers for positive and negative. Prepping this wire is like any other. I start by removing any tape or protective covering and cut off the end. Look at how bad that terminal got over time. This is caused by a chemical reaction between the metal on the terminal and battery gases or electrolyte fluids that come out of the post. Cleaning this won't last too long. The rust will just come right back. There's a little bit of wire exposed here, but it has to fill the entire lug, so I'm gonna cut off just a bit more. And nice and straight. See, the ground wire is not as large as the positive one, so the 2-gauge lugs I got are a bit too big. Now the 4-gauge lug, on the other hand, that fits snug. The direction of the lug matters in this case depending on how it's going on the terminal, so it either can go this way or that way. I do like for it to be flat against the metal so it doesn't interfere with bolting it onto the stud. Sometimes it's way better just to load the lug first, stick the wire through, and then crimp it after. Like that. It's gonna be like that. Like that. And then we check. Oh yeah. That's not going anywhere. Now we're going to focus on doing the positive terminal next. Now that one doesn't have much corrosion on it. It actually looks pretty fine. It just looks worn out since it's a little old, of course, same year as the car. In this case, because we're already doing the negative, I think it's best to just also do the positive as well. Look at the crimp on this. It's pretty bad. I 100% agree that this should be recrimped. Maybe at one point it looked great, but now it just looks pretty withered too. Look at this. All the strands are just like sticking out. All right, so let's recrimp this too. We're gonna probably run it behind the air box. So I'm gonna crimp it. I'm gonna crimp it like this. Well, now that the battery terminals are done, there is one last thing to do before getting the battery in here, and that is to properly fix the position of the circuit breaker. I'm thinking I'm gonna bolt it onto the frame, like somewhere right here. It is gonna interfere a little bit with the fuse box, but that's okay. I'll make the sacrifice. As long as it's put and it's stable and it's not gonna fly anywhere, that's the only other concern that I wanna fix today. Oops. I drilled into the right place, just the wrong placement, because now it's sitting under the beam and not over the beam, and I'm not going to be able to install the nut on the other end. So now I got to redo my hole. So that is the hole I drilled right there, and then there's one right on top. That reaches out on that side. Yep. Over the beam. Oh yeah, look at that. Nice and sturdy. Well, now it's time to put everything back. Gotta add some electrical tape to these. We don't want this wire to be too exposed like that. Seal it up just how it was before. It's going in. Oh yeah. See? Gonna have to. Dun, dun, dun. All right, now it's time to check our work. Let's see how it cranks. Man, it started so quick with no delay whatsoever. Guys, I absolutely love the new terminals that I got. I've just never seen that kind of setup on any other car. And why not do both? You know, I was thinking like, is it really necessary to do the positive terminal too, since it doesn't have any rust on it? You know, it just looks a little old, but I mean, it still works. But yeah, no, it's, you know, why not? I mean, the kit comes with two anyways. I don't even think those are sold in single units. Huh, I've never seen that. They've always been sold in kits. So why not? Man, this is my first turbo vehicle in so long, and I haven't really done much with it because of course I've been focusing on the Supra, and you know, that's just sheesh, that's a lot of work on its own, right? But I always thought, like, what else can I really do with this car? You know, I've thought of like a couple things, but I don't know. I want to ask you guys, if you guys owned a turbo SUV, I mean, it does look like a little family car, but it's boosted, so it's pretty nice. You know, no tune, it's just all completely stock. But if you guys owned a turbo SUV, what would you do to it? I'm just curious. I'm curious. Well, that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for the next vlog. Peace out.